Stellantis shares tanking today, down well over 20%. Now, I'm still trying to figure this out. It's not all about electric vehicles, is it? But is the bulk of the write-down related to that?
Yeah, the vast majority is related to EVs.
And is North America the core problem with EVs, or have sales been weaker?
Yeah, it's predominantly North America. We've seen obviously a policy shift. Just EV demand has certainly slowed. There's a lot of causes to it.
Jeep, Dodge, Ram. Three of the most iconic names in American history. Names that built this country's roads, hauled its loads, and filled its driveways for generations. And right now, they are in a full-blown cash crisis. One announcement, one single day. And just like that, 30% of their entire company's value was gone, wiped out before the closing bell. Not over weeks, not over months. In a single trading session, nearly a third of everything Jeep, Dodge, and Ram had built erased. We are not talking about a bad quarter. We are not talking about a slow sales month or a temporary rough patch that a new model will fix. We are talking about a company that just took on $6 billion in brand new debt just to keep the lights on. A company that wrote off $26.5 billion on failed projects. Projects that, when you do the math, cost them more than their entire company is even worth today. Let that land for a second. They lost more money on bad bets than the whole company is currently valued at, and now they are scrambling. Dividend payments? Cut. Gone for 2026. Pieces of the business being sold off quietly. The EV plans they spent years and billions hyping, scrapped. And the factories that built the Rams and the Wranglers that Americans actually wanted to buy, slowing down, going dark. But here is the part that should make every car buyer, every dealer, every worker connected to these brands stop and pay attention. Because this crisis does not stay inside a boardroom. It does not stay on a stock ticker. It rolls downhill, straight into dealerships, straight into service bays, straight into the paychecks of people who never made a single decision that caused any of this. The Jeep Wrangler used to be bulletproof, simple, rugged, built for real people at a real price. Now it sits on lots at $50,000, $60,000, and nobody's buying. So here is the question that nobody at that company wants to answer out loud. When the cash finally runs out, what happens to Jeep, Dodge, and Ram, and everyone whose entire livelihood depends on them staying alive? Mike Delgado was checking his phone when the news hit. Not a rumor, not a leak, an official announcement. And within hours, Stellantis, the parent company behind every Jeep, Dodge, and Ram on his lot, and every lot like his across the country, had lost 30% of its entire value in a single day before most people had even finished their morning coffee. That is not a market correction. That is a verdict. To understand how brutal that number really is, you need to know what Stellantis is worth right now. Today, the entire company, Jeep, Dodge, Ram, Chrysler, all of it, is valued at $21.2 billion. That sounds like a lot of money until you hear the next number. The write-down they just announced on failed EV projects across the company came in at $26.5 billion. Do that math slowly. They lost $5 billion more on bad bets than their whole company is currently worth. Every factory, every brand, every vehicle rolling off every assembly line, all of it combined is worth less than what they threw away chasing an electric future that never showed up. And here is the part that stings the most. This was not some outside force that blindsided them. No natural disaster. No global shutdown. This was a series of decisions made in boardrooms, announced at press conferences, and celebrated with glossy reveals in front of giant screens. Project after project, billion after billion, poured into EV plans that the market rejected. Quietly at first, then loudly, and now catastrophically. Mike is not an analyst. He is not a Wall Street trader watching a ticker. He is a dealer. And when that stock dropped 30% in one afternoon, He did not need a spreadsheet to feel it. He looked out at his lot, at the Rams sitting in rows, at the Jeeps lined up with window stickers that were starting to feel like wishful thinking, and he understood exactly what a $26.5 billion write-down means when it trickles down to the people on the ground. It means the company that supplies his inventory is now fighting for its own survival. It means the brands his customers trust, the names they grew up with, the trucks their fathers drove and their kids were supposed to drive, are now being held together by emergency financing and desperate pivots. A 30% drop in one day does not happen because a company is doing fine. It does not happen because investors are overreacting. It happens because the numbers are real, the damage is deep, and the market sees exactly what is coming next. The only question now is whether anyone inside that company sees it too. When a company the size of Stellantis hits the wall, the emergency playbook comes out fast. And right now, every page of that playbook is being used at the same time. First move, borrow. Stellantis just approved $6 billion in new debt to keep the lights on and the cash flowing. $6 billion not being invested in new products or better engineering or a smarter strategy. $6 billion just to maintain liquidity. Just to survive the next chapter of a crisis they built themselves. That money sits in the bank like a timer, because borrowed money is not free. Every single day that debt exists, interest is accumulating. The clock is running. Second move, stop paying shareholders. Dividend payments for 2026 have been cut entirely. That is not a minor adjustment. Companies do not stop rewarding their investors unless they have no other choice. When a corporation cuts its dividend, it is sending one message as clearly as it can without saying the words out loud. We need every dollar we have. We cannot afford to give any of it back right now. Third move, sell the pieces. Stellantis is raising cash by selling 49% of a joint battery venture. And this is the move that should make everyone pay attention, because this is what companies do when they are not restructuring. This is what they do when they are bleeding out. They look around at what still has value and they start selling it, not because they want to, because they have to. The EV plans are being scrapped. The same projects that burned through $26.5 billion are now being abandoned to preserve whatever cash is left. Ford made this pivot. GM made this pivot. Toyota and Honda never fully committed to begin with. Stellantis is the last one to the table, arriving only after the damage was already done, pivoting back to gas and hybrid, not as a strategy, but as a lifeline. James Rivera runs a small independent used car lot 2 miles from a Ram franchise store. He does not work for Stellantis. He never has. But his entire inventory comes from trade-ins that flow through franchise dealers. When those dealers sell new vehicles, customers trade in their old ones. Those trade-ins hit the auction, and James buys them. That is his business model. That is his payroll. That is how he keeps his doors open. If Stellantis dealers stop selling, the trade-ins dry up, the auctions empty out, and James has nothing to put on his lot. He is not in the boardroom. He did not make a single decision that caused any of this. But he will feel every consequence. Before we go further, if you are shopping for any vehicle right now, you need my free ebook, Avoid These 17 Cars, in 2026. The link is in the description. Download it before you step foot in a dealership. Here is the thing about borrowing $6 billion to stay alive. It only buys time. It does not fix the underlying problem. And the underlying problem at Stellantis right now is something far more dangerous than a bad earnings report or an embarrassing write-down. Their cash flow is turning negative. More money is going out every single month than is coming in. And when that is true, no amount of debt, no asset sale, no emergency pivot changes the math. It just delays the moment when the numbers finally catch up. Think about it the way a dealer thinks about floor plan financing. Every truck sitting unsold on a lot is costing money every single day. A $70,000 Ram financed at 7% annual interest burns through more than $12 a day just sitting there. 30 days go by, and that is over $360 gone. 90 days, and the lender starts demanding curtailment payments, forcing the dealer to pay down chunks of the principal just to keep the truck on the lot. The longer it sits, the faster the losses stack. The asset does not stay neutral. It actively drains the account it was supposed to fill. Now scale that up to a company carrying billions in new debt on top of a business that is already spending more than it earns. Stellantis is not just paying interest on $6 billion. They are paying it while simultaneously trying to fund a turnaround, maintain operations across multiple brands, and compete in a market that has already started walking away from their products. Every day the spiral runs, the window to correct it gets smaller. This is how massive companies go under. Not in one dramatic crash, but in a slow, grinding countdown that everyone can see, but nobody wants to say out loud. Revenue weakens, cash reserves shrink, debt payments grow heavier. There is less money available for the product improvements that would actually bring buyers back. Weaker products mean slower sales. Slower sales mean less revenue. And the cycle tightens like a vice, one turn at a time. The brutal reality is that new debt gives Stellantis cash in the bank. It gives them runway. But runway is only useful if the plane can actually get off the ground. If sales do not recover, if the product pivot does not connect with buyers fast enough, if dealers keep sitting on aging inventory that nobody is rushing to purchase, that runway runs out. The cash balance counts down. The interest payments keep coming, and the gap between what is going in and what is going out does not close on its own. It closes when the money is completely gone, and then it does not close at all. When a company starts running out of cash, the cuts come in a specific order. First, production slows down, then factories go quiet, then the workers go home. And at Stellantis right now, that sequence is not a forecast. It is already in motion. Production slowdowns sound like a boardroom decision, a line item in a quarterly strategy document, something that happens on paper before it happens in real life. But the moment those orders go out, the consequences start moving fast. Shifts get reduced. Assembly lines that ran 2 rotations start running 1. Parts orders get trimmed. Suppliers who built their entire business around a steady flow of Stellantis contracts start getting smaller purchase orders and bigger questions about what comes next. Then the factories start shutting down. Not all at once. Quietly at first. A temporary closure here. An extended maintenance period there. Language designed to sound like a pause rather than an ending. But the workers on those floors know the difference. They have seen it before. A temporary shutdown that never reopens is still a shutdown. And then come the layoffs. Carlos Mendez has worked the line at a Ram assembly plant for 11 years. He has built trucks through slow quarters and strong ones, through model changeovers and product launches. He has seen the lot outside his plant fill up with finished trucks waiting to be shipped. Lately, he has noticed something different. The trucks are still piling up, but the shipping orders are not keeping pace. The inventory is building. The line is slowing. And the rumors on the floor have shifted from when things will pick up to whether they will. When Carlos loses that job, he stops buying. He stops going out. He stops making the car payment on the used Ram pickup he financed 2 years ago. He is not alone. Across every plant, every supplier, every small business built around the economic gravity of a major auto manufacturer, the same story plays out in parallel. More people out of work means fewer people who can afford to walk into a dealership and sign a purchase agreement. And fewer buyers means even slower sales for the brands that are already struggling to move metal off the lot. This is the loop that destroys industries from the inside. Stellantis cuts production to save money. Fewer workers means a weaker local economy. A weaker economy means fewer buyers. Fewer buyers means more unsold inventory. More unsold inventory means more pressure to cut production again. Each turn of the cycle pulls more people in and pushes more money out. The factory gates do not just affect the workers standing in front of them. The damage travels far beyond the fence line, and it does not stop until something breaks the loop entirely. Here is something most people get wrong when they hear that Stellantis is running out of cash. They picture dealerships panicking, fire sales, Jeep Wranglers marked down 50% overnight, lines of desperate buyers cleaning out lots before the doors close for good. That is not how this works. And understanding why tells you everything about how broken this system actually is. Stellantis does not own the vehicles sitting on dealer lots. The dealers do. When a Jeep rolls off the assembly line and gets shipped to a franchise store, that dealership buys it. Stellantis is the supplier. The dealership is the customer. Which means when Stellantis hits a financial wall, the inventory on those lots does not suddenly belong to a company desperate for cash. It belongs to dealers who may be doing just fine and have no reason to slash prices at all. This is the stranglehold, and it runs in both directions. Stellantis needs dealers to sell their products at prices that make the brand look viable. Dealers need Stellantis to supply products that people actually want to buy at prices they can actually move. The moment either side fails at their part of that equation, both of them suffer. Right now, Stellantis has failed first. They built products that are too expensive, too complicated, and too far removed from what made these brands worth buying in the first place. The Jeep Wrangler is the sharpest example. There was a time when a Wrangler was exactly what it looks like: simple, rugged, affordable. The 4.0 inline-six engine that powered them for decades was nearly indestructible. Owners drove those trucks into the ground, and they kept running. That reputation was real. It was earned. And it was the entire reason people lined up for one. Now, a Wrangler sticker's at $50,000, $60,000, loaded with technology that adds complexity without adding the durability that made the name mean something. The bulletproof reputation has become a memory, and buyers are starting to notice the gap between what the badge used to promise and what the product actually delivers. But even if Stellantis figures out the product problem, even if they somehow bring a genuinely affordable, genuinely reliable truck to market, the dealer relationship can undo all of it. A $30,000 Ram that flies off the lot the moment it arrives gives dealers every incentive to stack market adjustments on top of MSRP until the affordability that was supposed to save the brand disappears entirely at the point of sale. Both sides of this relationship have the power to break it. Right now, the manufacturer broke it first. The question is whether there is enough time, enough cash, and enough willingness to actually fix it before the whole structure comes down. Let's say Stellantis does everything right from this moment forward. Let's say the right people walk into the right rooms, make the right calls, and come out with a plan that actually addresses what went wrong. An affordable truck, a reliable product, something that puts the Ram and Jeep names back within reach of the buyers who walked away. Let's say all of that happens. The question that nobody at that company wants to sit with is a simple one. Is there enough time left for it to matter? The math is unforgiving. Taking a vehicle from concept to showroom floor is not a quick process. Research and development, engineering, testing, regulatory approval, production tooling. A realistic timeline from the moment a project gets greenlit to the moment a buyer can actually purchase that vehicle runs 2 to 3 years at minimum. That is assuming no delays, no supply chain disruptions, no engineering setbacks. 2 to 3 years of clean execution from a company that is currently burning through cash faster than it is bringing it in. And that is the problem. Stellantis may not have 2 to 3 years. Watch what happens at every press conference these brands put on. A giant screen lights up. A new truck rolls out under dramatic lighting. The executives talk about revolution, about change, about a bold new direction that is going to reconnect the brand with its customers and transform the company's fortunes. The crowd applauds, the headlines run, and then 12 months later, that truck is sitting on a dealer lot with an $8,000 discount sticker and a days on lot number that tells the real story. This pattern has repeated itself for years, not once, not twice. Year after year, a new expensive product announced as the answer, and year after year, the same result: inventory aging, dealers discounting, buyers walking, the press conference optimism wearing off faster each time, because trust is not rebuilt with another big reveal. It is rebuilt with a product that works, at a price that makes sense, delivered consistently over time. That is what Stellantis has not been able to do, and what makes the current situation different from every previous slow quarter or product misstep is that the financial runway to keep trying is disappearing in real time. For buyers watching from the outside, the opportunity is real. Jeep and Ram inventory is sitting on lots right now with discounts that would have seemed impossible 2 years ago. The deals exist. But every buyer needs to ask the question that the sticker price does not answer. What does long-term parts availability look like? What happens to warranty support if the brand changes hands? The window for the right decisions was open for years. It is still open now, but it is closing faster than anyone inside that company seems willing to admit. Pull back and look at everything that has happened. Not through the lens of a stock analyst or a brand loyalist, but through the cold, clear lens of the numbers. Because the numbers do not have an agenda. They do not care about legacy. They do not care about nostalgia. They just tell the truth. Stellantis lost 30% of its entire company value in a single day. They wrote down $26.5 billion on EV projects that failed to connect with a single meaningful wave of buyers. They took on $6 billion in new debt, not to grow, not to invest, not to build something better, but simply to survive the next chapter of a crisis entirely of their own making. Dividends cut, assets being sold, factories slowing, layoffs coming, every single indicator pointing in the same direction at the same time. And sitting in the middle of all of it are the brands themselves. Ram trucks averaging over 120 days on dealer lots in some markets. The Jeep Gladiator posting a 47.7% sales collapse in a single month. Dodge facing an identity crisis deeper than any product launch can paper over, because the muscle car DNA that defined the brand for decades has been replaced by a lineup that costs more, delivers less, and excites almost nobody walking onto a lot right now. History has an answer for what happens next when a company reaches this point. It is not always bankruptcy in the traditional sense. It is not always a dramatic shutdown with cameras outside a padlocked factory. What history actually shows is that the pieces with real value get separated from the wreckage and sold to whoever sees an opportunity in the rubble. The Jeep name still carries weight. The Ram name still means something to a specific and loyal group of buyers. Those names will not simply disappear, but the company currently attached to them might look very different 2 years from now than it does today. What could still change the outcome is not complicated to describe, even if it is incredibly difficult to execute. An affordable product, a reliable product, a product that remembers what these brands were built on before the price tags climbed past $60,000 and the reliability slipped below the standard that made them legendary. That product needs to exist, needs to reach buyers, and needs to do it before the cash runs out entirely. The market made its position clear the day that stock dropped 30% before lunch. Buyers have been making their position clear every month that Ram and Jeep inventory sits aging on dealer lots across the country. The only voice that has not spoken clearly yet belongs to the people running these companies. And time is running out for them to say something worth hearing. Step back from the spreadsheets and the stock tickers for a moment. Step back from the write-downs and the debt approvals and the dividend cuts. Because underneath all of those numbers is a story that is much older and much more human than any quarterly earnings report. Jeep, Dodge, and Ram did not become iconic by accident. They earned it. They earned it on job sites and back roads and highway stretches where the truck that never quit became the one a family bought again and again for 30 years. They earned it with engines that mechanics could fix with basic tools and owners could trust without reading a manual. They earned it by being within reach of the people who actually needed them, not just the people who could afford to treat a truck like a status symbol. That reputation was real. That loyalty was real. And somewhere in the last decade, the decisions being made at the top of these companies started spending that loyalty down like a savings account with no deposits going in. The workers who built these trucks never made those decisions. The dealers who staked their businesses on these brands never made those decisions. The technicians running service bays, the suppliers running parts operations, the small independent lots that depend on trade-in flow from franchise stores, none of them made those decisions. But every single one of them is now living with the consequences. That is the part of this story that gets lost when the conversation stays at the level of stock prices and corporate strategy. Real people built their entire financial lives around the assumption that these brands would keep doing what they had always done. And right now, that assumption is under more pressure than it has ever been. For anyone watching this who is in the market for a vehicle right now, the opportunity inside this crisis is genuine. Deep discounts on Ram and Jeep products exist today that will not exist once the inventory clears, or the brands change hands, or the market shifts again. The deals are real. But so are the questions that come with them. Ask about parts availability. Ask about warranty continuity. Ask what the service picture looks like 12 months from now. The price on the window sticker is only part of the decision. And for everyone else, the lesson sitting inside this collapse is one that goes far beyond the auto industry. When companies stop listening to the people who actually buy their products and start chasing trends that sound better in a press release than they perform in the real world, the bill always comes due, eventually. For Stellantis, that bill arrived. It arrived all at once, in one brutal day, in numbers that could not be explained away or rebranded or deferred to next quarter. The road ahead for Jeep, Dodge, and Ram belongs entirely to the decisions being made right now. And if history is any guide, the brands that survive are not the ones that were biggest. They are the ones that remembered, just in time, who they were actually built for. Do not walk into any dealership without the full picture. Download my free ebook, Avoid These 17 Cars, in 2026. The link is in the description. And drop a comment below. Are you still rooting for Jeep and Ram to turn this around? Or do you think it is already too late? I want to hear where you stand.